It is your first week at a new job. You are sitting at a clean desk, reading through a glossy onboarding packet. Your new manager smiles, tells you the company operates like a close-knit family, and assures you that hard work is the only metric that truly matters here. You believe them. You think you are entering a meritocracy, a rational environment where competence is automatically rewarded and your daily output will translate directly into upward mobility. What you do not know is that the moment you signed your offer letter, an invisible clock started ticking. You are not entering a meritocracy. You are walking into a complex, highly structured political arena with an entirely different set of rules. These rules are never written down in an employee handbook, never mentioned in human resources orientations, and never spoken out loud by leadership. Most employees spend years trying to decode this system through trial and error, paying for their ignorance with stagnant salaries, missed promotions, and quiet layoffs. They assume the game is played on the surface. They do not realize the actual board is hidden and the pieces were moving before they even sat down. If you want to stop getting blindsided by workplace systems nobody explains, subscribe. The first rule you must understand is that your permanent corporate brand is locked in during your first 90 days. People think the initial months are a grace period, a safe window designed for you to learn the ropes, make mistakes, and ask questions. In reality, this is the most critical evaluation window of your entire tenure. Human beings rely heavily on anchoring bias. Management is quietly observing your behavior to categorize you into one of two boxes, a high potential asset or a utility worker. What makes this harder to see is how eager new employees are to prove themselves. In an attempt to be a team player, a new hire will often volunteer for administrative tasks, agree to unrealistic deadlines, and constantly ask for permission. They think they are signaling a strong work ethic. What they are actually signaling is low status. If you act like a subordinate who needs constant direction, the system will permanently label you as an executor, not a strategist. You will be given more tasks, but never more authority. The invisible consequence is that 3 years later, you will wonder why you are passed over for leadership roles, entirely unaware that the decision was made during your third week. You are not just learning the job during onboarding, you are teaching the organization exactly how to treat you. The second rule governs the true nature of human resources. Most new employees operate under the dangerous assumption that HR is a neutral mediator, a safe space designed to support their well-being, mediate conflicts, and ensure fairness. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of organizational architecture. HR is not an employee support center. HR is an enterprise risk management department. Their sole mandate is to protect the legal entity from liability, and sometimes that liability is you. When you go to HR to complain about a toxic manager or an unfair policy, you believe you are seeking help. Structurally, you are creating a data point of risk. HR will listen empathetically, take careful notes, and assure you that your concerns are being heard. But there is a second layer to this interaction. Behind closed doors, they are evaluating whether your complaint poses a legal or financial threat to the company. If your manager is a high-performing revenue generator, the system will naturally protect them. You, the complainer, become the disruption that needs to be managed. Over time, you will find yourself quietly excluded from important meetings, assigned to lower visibility projects, or subjected to intense performance scrutiny. The system logs the complainer as the problem. HR is designed to protect the castle, and you are standing outside the walls. The third rule destroys the most common illusion in corporate life, the performance review. Employees think a performance review is an objective evaluation of their yearly output, and that working harder naturally results in a higher rating and a better raise. That sounds fair, until you look at the underlying mathematics. Performance reviews are reverse engineered. Long before you sit down for your evaluation, the finance department has already determined the company's compensation budget. They have calculated exactly how much money can be allocated for raises and bonuses. Leadership then takes this fixed pool of capital and distributes it across departments. Your performance review is simply a narrative written backward to justify a mathematical distribution that was already decided. What most employees never realize is that their rating is debated in hidden calibration meetings. In these rooms, managers are forced to rank their teams on a bell curve. If your manager does not possess the political capital to fight for your standing against other managers, you will receive an average rating, regardless of your actual metrics. The quiet consequence is that you will work 60-hour weeks, burn yourself out, and receive a 3% raise, falsely believing that you just need to work a little harder next year to break through. The numbers were fixed before the conversation even began. The fourth rule dictates the reality of upward mobility. Visibility scales infinitely faster than capability. There is a deeply ingrained belief that if you put your head down and do exceptional work, the work will eventually speak for itself. In a purely rational system, this would be true. But a corporation cannot objectively measure your underlying intelligence. It can only measure your broadcasted signals. There is a second layer to this that traps highly intelligent people. The organization relies on silent, invisible labor to keep the lights on. If you are the person quietly fixing complex problems, optimizing databases, and preventing disasters, you become structurally indispensable in your current seat. The system rewards this invisible competence with nothing but more invisible work. Meanwhile, the employee who produces average work but expertly manages their visibility, attaches their name to high-profile initiatives, and confidently presents simple concepts to senior leadership is fast-tracked for promotion. They understand signal management. The invisible consequence of relying on hard work alone is the curse of competence. You become too valuable to promote and too quiet to reward. If you do not manage the signal, you become the noise, and the organization will gladly let you toil in the shadows forever. The fifth rule exposes the weaponization of corporate culture. During interviews and onboarding, you will hear companies describe themselves as a family. People think this means the organization cares deeply about their personal well-being and long-term security. In reality, the family narrative is a calculated wage suppressant. By framing a transactional employment contract as a familial bond, the organization intentionally blurs your psychological boundaries. Families demand unconditional loyalty. Families expect you to make sacrifices. Families do not ask for overtime pay. When a company leverages this language, they are installing an emotional operating system designed to extract unpaid extra labor. What makes this so effective is that it weaponizes your natural human empathy. You stay late to help your work family. You take on 3 different roles without a title change because the family is going through a tough time. But the real problem becomes entirely visible the moment macroeconomic conditions shift. When revenues drop, the family narrative evaporates instantly, replaced by cold economic restructuring and sterile severance packages. The quiet consequence of buying into this culture is that you suppress your own market value, prioritizing emotional loyalty to a legal entity that views you strictly as an operational expense. The sixth rule reveals the structural conflict of interest at the heart of your daily work. Your manager is not your career coach. Most employees naturally assume their boss is invested in their growth and wants to see them climb the corporate ladder. While your manager might like you personally, their professional incentives dictate otherwise. A manager's primary objective is to maintain operational efficiency while hitting their own key performance indicators. When you are highly competent, reliable, and require zero hand-holding, you make your manager's life significantly easier. Replacing you costs them time, budget, and immense operational risk. Therefore, promoting you out of their department actually creates a massive problem for them. What you will experience instead is the indefinite dangling of the promotion carrot. You will be given stretch assignments, which is corporate code for doing next-level work on your current level salary. You will be told that you are building a business case for next year, or that the timing is just not quite right yet. From the outside, it looks like mentorship. Structurally, it is containment. Your manager is heavily incentivized to keep you exactly where you are, functioning as a high-yield, low-cost asset for as long as you are willing to tolerate it. The final rule governs the brutal economics of compensation. Loyalty is heavily taxed, and job hopping is highly subsidized. The traditional belief is that long-term tenure brings financial rewards, stability, and recognition. You assume that if you stay with the company for 5 years, your historical knowledge and proven track record will be reflected in your paycheck. This belief ignores the mechanics of internal compensation bands. Most corporations place strict, percentage-based caps on internal raises. Even if you secure a major promotion, HR policies often dictate that your salary can only increase by 8 to 12%. However, when a company needs to fill a vacant role externally, those internal caps do not apply. They are forced to pay current market rates to acquire new talent. What most employees never see is the moment a new hire is brought in to do the exact same job, often with less experience, making 20 to 30% more than the loyal veteran sitting at the next desk. The company relies on your inertia. They know the psychological friction of updating a resume, interviewing, and changing routines is high enough to keep most people staying for less than they are worth. The invisible consequence is a massive, compounding loss of lifetime earnings. By remaining loyal, you are actively subsidizing the inflated salaries of the external hires brought in to replace the people who understood how the game was actually played. When you step back and observe these 7 rules together, the true architecture of the workplace comes into sharp focus. The corporation is not inherently malicious, nor is it inherently benevolent. It is simply a machine, designed to optimize for its own survival, efficiency, and profit. It operates entirely on structural incentives, risk mitigation, and leverage. The mistake most people make is projecting human morality onto an economic system. They wait for fairness, they wait for their invisible hard work to be recognized, they wait for a corporate entity to reward their loyalty. But the system was never designed to do any of those things. It was designed to extract maximum value for minimum cost, and it will use every psychological lever, cultural narrative, and structural barrier to achieve that goal. Your career trajectory is not determined solely by your talent, your effort, or your loyalty. It is determined by your ability to see the board clearly, manage your broadcasted signals, and understand the hidden incentives of the people above you. You must stop playing the game they told you to play and start playing the game that is actually happening. The system will offer exactly what it thinks you will accept. The decision was made long before you realized you were being judged, and the ceiling only works if you do not know it is there.